A cedar hope chest passes from mother to daughter at a quiet Sunday brunch. By dawn Monday, both the daughter and the chest are gone. The mother, a 62-year-old retired forensic accountant with a Midwest smile and a memory like a ledger, lets everyone believe she's been robbed blind. What no one knows, the fortune inside wasn't just money. It was a map, and she drew it to lead a thief into a legal trap they could never see coming. One signature, 3 cameras, a clause nobody read, and a daughter who thinks she's holding $15 million until it turns to sand in her hands. My name is Margaret O'Rourke Maggie. To anyone who's known me longer than a tax audit, and after 40 years of forensic accounting, I know exactly how much a lie costs, down to the penny. That Sunday morning in Ruston, Colorado, my daughter Lila arrived at 11:30 sharp for brunch, punctual as only someone eyeing an inheritance can be. Through my kitchen window, I watched her help Bryce from their Tesla, his entrepreneur smile already working before he hit my doorstep. The doorbell camera caught them both checking their phones, calculating something. I was calculating too. "Mum, you look wonderful," Lila said, air kissing past my cheek. She smelled like designer perfume and desperation, a combination I'd been tracking in our monthly brunches since Bryce's third revolutionary startup folded. I'd made her grandmother's cinnamon rolls, the ones that fill a house with the smell of butter and brown sugar and better times. Set the table with the good china. Poured coffee from the French press Patrick bought me for our 35th anniversary, 3 years before the cancer took him. Everything perfect. Everything normal. Everything recorded by the new security system I'd installed 6 weeks ago, 8 cameras, motion sensors, cloud storage with blockchain timestamps. "How's the new venture?" I asked Bryce, passing the cream, real cream, not the almond milk substitute he'd requested. "Incredible traction," he said, launching into his pitch about disrupting supply chain logistics through AI-powered something. I nodded at the right moments. After 4 decades of investigating corporate fraud, I could spot a pyramid scheme dressed in Silicon Valley vocabulary from 3 zip codes away. Lila touched my hand. "Mum, we're so close to closing our seed round. Just need another 60 days of runway." Runway. Even their begging had jargon now. "I have something for you," I said, standing. "Something I've been meaning to pass down." I led them to the living room, where the chest sat by the fireplace, 3 feet of carved cedar that had travelled from County Cork to Boston to Colorado across 4 generations of O'Rourke women. The morning light caught the brass corners, made the wood glow like honey. "Grandma Eileen's hope chest," Lila breathed. For a moment, her face went soft, remembering summer visits, dress-up clothes, the smell of cedar and secrets. "It's yours now," I said. "Part of your inheritance. The rest will come later. Of course. But I wanted you to have this while I could still see you enjoy it." Bryce was already kneeling beside it, running his hands along the corners, checking the lock mechanism. "This is museum quality, the craftsmanship alone. There are some family papers inside," I continued, voice steady as a balance sheet. "Documentation for various assets, sentimental value mostly, but you might find them interesting." Lila's eyes sharpened. "What kind of documentation?" "Oh, certificates, deeds, some investment records from your father's business. I've been meaning to organize them properly. Been keeping them safe in there with some other family treasures, your great-grandmother's jewelry. Few things Patrick left specifically for you." That was the hook, and she bit hard. "We should take it today," Bryce said quickly. Get it properly appraised for insurance? Of course. I smiled. I'll help you load it. While they maneuvered the chest toward the door, I excused myself to the bathroom. 3 minutes to activate everything the Blue Juniper Trust documents waiting in Evan Cole's office. The UCC-1 filing that would flag any attempt to sell or transfer the assets. The conditional deed of gift that required both our signatures at Prairie Crest Bank with their 3 cameras and notary public before any transfer became legal. Patrick taught me patience through those long nights watching him fade. If someone wants to take from you, Mags, he'd said, morphine soft but clear. Let them think it's their idea. Let them convict themselves. Back in the kitchen, I poured myself another coffee and watched them struggle with the weight. Inside that false bottom pink diamonds from the Argyle mine, bearer bonds that predated Reagan's tax reforms, a hardware wallet seed phrase, and mineral rights to 6 acres of Northline Fabrication's old land that Colorado School of Mines had recently flagged for rare earth deposits. $15 million, give or take market fluctuations. We'll bring it back next weekend, Lila promised, breathless from the weight. Just want to get it cleaned up, maybe reinforce the hinges. No rush, sweetheart. She hugged me then, tight and genuine, and for a moment I almost stopped it all, almost told her the truth, almost saved her from herself. But 34 years of watching her choose the easy lie over the hard truth had taught me better. The chest would teach her what I couldn't. Drive safe, I called out, waving from the porch. The doorbell camera caught them pulling away at 12:47 p.m. By 1:15, I'd confirmed with Evan Cole that Phase 1 was initiated. The trap was set with love, baited with greed, and spring-loaded with 40 years of forensic accounting expertise. Monday morning arrived with frost on the windows and silence from my daughter's phone. 5:17 a.m., according to the kitchen clock, when the doorbell camera alert chimed on my tablet. I watched the replay with my first coffee, Lila and Bryce loading the chest into their Tesla at 4:53 a.m. Quick, efficient, practiced, like they'd rehearsed it. The infrared caught Bryce checking over his shoulder twice, Lila fumbling with her keys, guilty movements in grayscale. Her text arrived at 6:22. Mum, took the chest home to polish it properly. The wood is so dry, needs attention. We'll bring it back this weekend. Love you. I screenshotted the message, forwarded it to Evan Cole with 2 words, Phase 1. His reply came instantly. The man never slept. A quality that justified his $400 hourly rate, recording all communications. Trust documents activated as of midnight. UCC-1 filing goes live at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. I didn't report it stolen. That would come later, if necessary. Instead, I made breakfast, scrambled eggs, wheat toast, the normal rhythm of a normal Monday for a normal retired woman who definitely hadn't just set a $15 million trap. By 10 a.m., I was sitting in Evan's office at Cole and Avery LLP, watching him arrange documents like a dealer setting up cards. Walk me through their exposure again, I said. Evan adjusted his frameless glasses. The moment they took the chest without completing the transfer requirements, they triggered the conditional clause. Every asset inside remains under the Blue Juniper Trust until both signatures are recorded at Prairie Crest Bank. Any attempt to sell, transfer, or monetize triggers immediate reversion. And if they've already opened it, the false bottom. I nodded. Then they've seen the inventory list. The one that describes everything in detail, but mentions repeatedly that formal transfer requires bank verification. If they're smart, they'll realize they can't move anything without your signature. They're not smart, I said. They're desperate. There's a difference. Evan pulled up his tablet, showed me the UCC1 filing. This is now public record. Any legitimate dealer, bank, or exchange running due diligence will see the encumbrance. The pink diamonds, especially, they're laser inscribed with serial numbers. I've already notified the International Gemological Institute. What about the crypto? The seed phrase leads to a wallet, but it's wrapped in a smart contract. Any attempt to transfer triggers a notification to my office and freezes the funds for 72 hours pending verification. Your daughter will think it's a security delay. Really, it's evidence collection. Through Evan's window, I could see downtown Ruston waking up coffee shops filling, people rushing to jobs they'd complain about later. Normal people with normal problems, not mothers orchestrating their children's legal downfall. The mineral rights. I asked. That's the masterpiece, Evan said, actually smiling. The deed is real. The rights are valuable. But the notarization includes a blockchain-verified codicil. Any transfer attempt without dual-party verification at Prairie Crest creates a public record of attempted fraud. My phone buzzed. Lila again. Mum, found Dad's old business papers in the chest. So many memories. Thank you for trusting me with this. Trusting her. The words sat in my stomach like cold stones. She's already constructing the narrative, I told Evan, making it sound like a gift freely given. Doesn't matter what story she tells herself. The paper trail is clear. You want me to send the formal notice? Not yet. Let them run a bit first. See how far they're willing to go. I left Evan's office and drove to Prairie Crest Bank, where Jennifer Huang, the branch manager, was expecting me. Mrs. O'Rourke, everything is prepared, she said, leading me to the secure conference room. 3 cameras, as requested. Audio recording capability. The notary is on standby whenever you need her. They'll come, I said. When they realize they can't move the assets without my signature, they'll come here. They'll think they're convincing me to sign over my fortune. Really, they'll be signing their confession. Jennifer, who'd known Patrick and me for 20 years, who'd processed the death benefits and watched me rebuild alone, touched my shoulder gently. Are you sure about this? She's your daughter? My daughter disappeared years ago, I said. Replaced by someone who measures love in wire transfers and values family by net worth. This person wearing Lila's face, speaking with Lila's voice, she's just a thief who happens to share my DNA. Driving home, I passed the turnoff to Northline Fabrication, Patrick's old shop. 10 acres of memories and machine oil, worth maybe 200,000 before the survey. Worth 15 million after rare earth minerals were discovered beneath the parking lot. The rights were in the chest, wrapped in so much legal conditioning they might as well have been bearer bonds for the moon. My phone rang through the car speakers. Lila. Mum? Quick question. The pink stones in the jewellery box, are those real? And there it was. They'd opened the false bottom. Your great-grandmother's? I said calmly. From before the war. Never had them properly evaluated. They're beautiful, she said, voice tight with controlled excitement. Bryce thinks we should get them appraised. For insurance. Whatever you think best, sweetheart. The lie came so easily to her, rolled off her tongue smooth as water. My forensic accountant brain Noted the verbal tells the pause before insurance, the slight uptick in pitch on appraised. She was already planning the sale. Love you, Mum. I know exactly how much, I replied, but she'd already hung up. The fracture between Lila and me didn't start with money. It started with a lie about a school fundraiser when she was 16, $20 that became $200, then a forged signature on a field trip form. Small betrayals that metastasized over 18 years into something terminal. Sitting in my home office that Monday evening, I pulled up the old files. Not the financial ones, those were meticulous, organized by year and category. The personal ones, photos, emails, the paper trail of a relationship dying by degrees. Here Lila at 22, college graduation, already dating Bryce. Even then, his smile looked like a sales pitch. I'd paid off her student loans that day, $43,000, and watched her hand the cleared account statement to him like a trophy. Here, the email from 2018. Mum, emergency. Bryce's investment opportunity closing tomorrow. Need 30,000 or we lose our position. I'd sent it. She'd never mentioned it again, even after the investment turned out to be a cryptocurrency that crashed 2 weeks later. Here, Patrick's funeral program. Lila in the front row, crying beautifully, already asking about the life insurance before we'd even left the cemetery. But between these landmarks of disappointment, there was one moment that haunted me. 3 years ago, November, 2:43 a.m., according to the hospital records. I'd fallen in the shower, hit my head on the granite corner, blood everywhere, vision swimming, couldn't reach my phone. Somehow managed to trigger the medical alert. The EMTs found me unconscious. Lila was my emergency contact. She came, sat by my bed for 6 hours while they ran CT scans, held my hand when they stitched the gash, drove me home in silence, made me soup, changed the bandages. For 3 days. She was the daughter I remembered, the one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who'd written "World's Best Mom" on 17 consecutive birthday cards. I thought I was going to lose you, she'd said, crying into my shoulder. Like we lost Dad. That was the last time I saw my real daughter. The next week, Bryce returned from his business trip to Vegas broke, naturally, and she was gone again, replaced by the calculating stranger who saw me as a retirement plan with a pulse. My laptop chimed. Email from Evan. Contact attempted at Hills and Hart Gemological, exactly as predicted. I pulled up the security footage he'd attached. There was Lila at the counter, the pink diamonds spread on black velvet. The appraiser, an older man with jeweler's loops hanging around his neck, typing something into his computer. His expression shifting. The conversation obviously cooling. Lila gathering the stones quickly. Bryce already heading for the door. The UCC1 filing had done its job. No legitimate dealer would touch those diamonds now. I started a new document, titled it Evidence Log, and began typing Monday, October 14th. Attempted sale of Argyle Pink Diamonds certificates AP 2019-3847 through 3851 at Hills and Hart. Proprietor ran standard check. Found encumbrance, declined transaction. Security footage archived. The doorbell camera flashed an alert. I switched screens, expecting a delivery. It was Detective Ruth Halpin from Ruston PD, and she wasn't alone. Beside her stood Mark Hills, the gemologist from the footage. I opened the door before they could ring again. "Mrs. O'Rourke," Detective Halpin said. "Mr. Hills here reported an unusual situation. Says someone tried to sell diamonds that flagged in his system as encumbered property. Would you like coffee? I asked. This might take a while. We sat in my kitchen, the same table where I'd served Lila cinnamon rolls yesterday. Mark Hills looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his cuffs. I don't want to cause trouble, he began. But when I ran the certification numbers, your name came up as the trust beneficiary. The young woman, she said they were family heirlooms. That's true, I said. They are. I gave them to my daughter yesterday. Detective Halpin leaned forward. Gave. Conditionally. The transfer isn't complete until we both sign documents at Prairie Crest Bank. It's complicated estate planning usually is. My daughter seems to have jumped the gun. She seemed desperate, Mark said quietly. Offered to take 70 cents on the dollar for quick cash. That's when I knew something was wrong. Those diamonds are worth $2.3 million at minimum. Detective Halpin was taking notes. Do you want to file a report? Not yet. This is a family matter that will resolve itself through proper channels, but I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. After they left, I sat alone in my kitchen, watching the sun set over the Rockies. The chest was out there somewhere, probably in Lila and Bryce's garage, its secrets spilling out like blood from a wound. They'd count the money they couldn't spend, scheme about wealth they couldn't access, dream about a fortune that was already turning to sand in their hands. My phone buzzed. Text from Lila. Mom, need to talk about Dad's business papers. Some confusion about the documentation. Can we meet this week? Confusion. That was one word for it. I texted back. Of course, sweetheart. How about Prairie Crest Bank Thursday at 2? We can clear everything up properly. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally. Why the bank? Official paperwork needs official witnesses. You understand? A longer pause. Then, okay, see you Thursday. I poured myself a glass of Patrick's favourite whiskey Middleton, saved for special occasions, and raised it to his photo on the mantel. She's going to walk right into it, I told him. Just like you said she would. In the photo, he was smiling. That crooked grin that meant he knew something you didn't. He'd known Lila before I did. Saw the cracks I'd spackled over with Mother's love. The money's just bait, Maggie, he'd said during his last coherent week. What you're really giving her is a choice. Let her show you who she is when she thinks no one's watching. Thursday. 2 p.m. 3 cameras. 2 signatures. One last chance for her to choose correctly. I didn't expect her to take it. Tuesday morning. I sat in Evan Cole's conference room while he walked me through the mechanics of my trap, each component precise as a Swiss watch movement. The chest itself is the masterpiece, he said, sliding photographs across the table. You had it modified when, 6 months ago, a craftsman in Denver who specializes in museum restorations cost me $12,000 to build the false bottom without damaging the original structure. The photos showed the engineering magnetic locks that only released with a specific sequence, pressure sensors that logged each opening attempt, and most importantly, the embedded NFC chip that connected to an escrow smart contract the moment someone tried to access the hidden compartment incorrectly. Show me the paper trail, I said. Evan pulled up document after document on his laptop screen. First, the Blue Juniper Trust, established 3 years ago with you as grantor and beneficiary. Ironclad. The conditional gift provision requires both parties to appear at Prairie Crest Bank for witnessed transfer. Any attempt to access or transfer the assets before that moment triggers immediate reversion. The UCC-1 filing. Public record as of yesterday morning, 9 a.m. It creates a secured interest in everything listed in the chest's inventory. No legitimate buyer, bank, or exchange will touch these assets now. They're radioactive. He pulled up another screen. Here's where it gets elegant. The escrow smart contract embedded in the chest's NFC chip. When they opened the false bottom incorrectly, and we know they did, because the blockchain logged it at 5:28 a.m. Monday, it created an immutable record. Timestamp, location data, even the duration they had it open. 23 minutes, I read from the screen. They spent 23 minutes cataloguing my trap. The seed phrase for the crypto wallet is the best part. Evan continued. It leads to a real wallet with real Bitcoin, about $3,000 worth, to make it believable. But the moment they try to transfer any amount over $100, it triggers a 72-hour hold and notifies us. Have they tried? Not yet, but they will. I studied the mineral rights deed next. The document that looked so simple, but carried 14 pages of conditions in microscopic print on the reverse. The rights are real? I asked. Absolutely. Worth approximately $8 million, according to the Geological Survey. But the transfer clause requires not just dual signatures, but also a statement of intended use, filed with the Colorado Bureau of Mines. Any attempt to sell or leverage the rights without that statement constitutes fraud. And the bearer bonds, pre-1982 unregistered, technically negotiable. But you reported them to the IRS in 2019 as found property, establishing a paper trail. If they try to cash them without declaring the income source, it's tax evasion. If they declare them, they have to explain how they obtained them. Every angle covered, every escape route blocked. 40 years of forensic accounting experience crystallized into one perfect trap. Walk me through what happens Thursday, I said. Evan pulled out a fresh legal pad, sketched a timeline. 2 p.m. You both arrive at Prairie Crest Bank. Jennifer Huang seats you in the secure conference room. 3 cameras running. Audio recording. Notary present. I'll have 2 sets of documents ready. He drew 2 boxes. Set are what they think they're signing. A simple transfer of ownership, making the gifts unconditional. They'll see what they want to see their payday. Set B, what they're actually signing. A complete acknowledgement of the conditional terms. Admission that they accessed the chest without authorization. Confirmation that they attempted to monetize assets before legal transfer. Every signature is a confession. And if they actually read the documents, 23 pages of dense legal text, they won't. Desperate people never do. They'll skip to the signature page. I thought about Lila at 16, signing her name to that forged field trip form, so confident I'd never check. Some habits carved grooves in a person's character so deep they became inescapable. There's one more thing, Evan said, pulling out a tablet. Security footage from Monday morning. The video showed Lila and Bryce in their garage, the chest open between them. Even in infrared, you could see their excitement. Bryce held up the pink diamonds to the light. Lila was typing on her laptop, probably researching values. They high-fived. Then Bryce pulled out his phone, made a call. His body language shifted, became animated. Salesman mode activated. I couldn't hear the words, but I knew the rhythm. He was already spending money they didn't have. Where did this come from? Their own security system, Evan said. Uploads to the cloud automatically. Bryce gave his login to a potential investor last month. Forgot to change it. The investor happens to be my client in another matter. Is this legal? We didn't access it. It was shared with us. But it establishes intent. They knew exactly what they were taking. My phone buzzed. Lila. Mum. Thursday works, but can we make it 3 p.m? Instead, Bryce has a call with investors at 2. Investors? Still playing that game? I texted back, 3 p.m. is perfect. You know, Evan said, watching me. You could still stop this. One phone call. Explain the situation. Give them a chance to return everything. I gave them that chance Sunday at brunch. They chose to steal instead. She's your daughter. No, I said, standing to leave. My daughter would have called Monday morning, excited about the family heirlooms, wanting to hear stories about her great-grandmother. My daughter would have asked permission before opening the locked compartment. My daughter would have seen $15 million and immediately asked if I was okay, if I needed help managing it. I gestured at the security footage frozen on the screen. Lila and Bryce celebrating their theft. These are just two strangers who happen to know where I live. Driving home, I passed the First Lutheran Church where Patrick's service had been held, where Lila had delivered a eulogy about love and family and values while secretly calculating her inheritance, where I'd stood in the receiving line, accepting condolences, not knowing my daughter had already been on her phone with Bryce, telling him about the life insurance policy. The chest had been in my living room that whole time, waiting. Patrick had known even then what would happen. His last gift wasn't the money, it was the clarity to see who people really were when they thought they'd won. Let them convict themselves, he'd said. Thursday, 3 p.m. 3 cameras, 2 criminals, 1 perfect trap. The chest was about to close. Wednesday morning brought the first real attempt at liquidation. Evan called me at 7:15. They tried the crypto, he said. 2 attempts overnight. First at 11:43 p.m. Tried to transfer $500. Second at 3:21 a.m. Attempted the full balance. And both frozen. 72-hour hold notification sent. They probably think it's normal security protocol. I was making coffee, watching the sunrise paint the Rockies gold. What about the bonds? Morgan Stanley flagged them an hour ago. Bryce walked into their Ruston branch with the physical certificates. The advisor ran the serial numbers. Saw our IRS filing from 2019, told him they needed documentation of ownership. He left quickly. Each failure would make them more desperate. More desperate meant more sloppy. More sloppy meant more evidence. My phone rang. Lila. Mom. Quick question. Dad's mineral rights documents. Do you have the original transfer from Northline Careful Now? Everything should be in the chest. Sweetheart. Why? Just doing due diligence. Bryce found an interested buyer, but they need the full chain of title. A buyer already. That's fast. Pause. Well, it's preliminary. Just exploring options. Smart to be thorough. We can review everything tomorrow at the bank. Right. The bank. Her voice tightened. Mum, is all this really necessary? The bank? I mean, can't we just handle the paperwork at your house? The bank has a notary, sweetheart. Makes everything official. You understand? After she hung up, I drove to Hills and Hart Gemological. Mark Hills was expecting me. Mrs. O'Rourke, he said, leading me to his office. I wanted you to see this. He pulled up security footage on his computer. There was Lila at his counter, but the audio was what mattered. "These are family stones," her recorded voice said. "My grandmother brought them from Ireland. We just need quick liquidity for a bridge situation." "Ireland doesn't produce pink diamonds," Mark said to me quietly. "Hasn't produced any diamonds, actually. Your daughter might want to research her lies better." "What did you tell her?" "That the stones were magnificent, but I'd need provenance documentation for something this valuable." Then I ran the certificates, saw the UCC filing, and suggested she speak with you first. "Did she say anything else?" Mark hesitated. "She asked if I knew anyone who might be less thorough. I gave her my card and said all legitimate dealers would require the same documentation." "Thank you." "Mrs. O'Rourke, these stones, they're Argyle pinks, investment grade. Your daughter was willing to take $700,000 for stones worth over $2 million. Whatever's happening here. She's desperate." I drove to Prairie Crest next. Jennifer Huang met me in the secure conference room where tomorrow's scene would play out. "Everything's ready," she said, pointing to the cameras. 3 angles, all recording to separate drives. Audio pickup is crystal clear. The notary will be Sarah Hendricks. She's been doing this for 30 years. Won't miss anything. "They'll try to rush," I said. "Make it seem urgent." "We won't be rushed. Every page gets reviewed, every signature witnessed. This is $15 million in assets. Nobody rushes that." I stood where Lila would sit tomorrow, looked directly at camera 2. That would be the angle that caught her face when she realized what she'd signed. The documents, Jennifer handed me the folder. "Mr. Cole delivered them this morning, 2 sets, as requested." I flipped through Set B, the real documents, page after page of admissions hidden in transfer language. Acknowledging prior unauthorized access. Confirming attempted conversion of secured assets. Waiving all claims of good faith possession. "She won't read them," I said. "Most people don't. They see what they want to see." That afternoon, Detective Halpern called. "Mrs. O'Rourke, we've had 3 dealers report attempted sales of pink diamonds matching your certificates. Hills and Hart yesterday, Colorado Gems this morning, and just now, a pawn shop on Federal Boulevard." A pawn shop. They're getting desperate. The pawnbroker actually called us, directly said someone was trying to pawn $2 million diamonds for $50,000 cash. Was it my daughter? The description matches. Mrs. O'Rourke. I need to ask, are you planning to press charges? That depends on tomorrow. Tomorrow? We have a meeting at Prairie Crest Bank to resolve the ownership issues properly. After that, I'll know whether charges are necessary. That evening, I couldn't eat. Sat in Patrick's study, surrounded by his things. His engineering books, his drafting table, the models of bridges he'd designed before the construction company, before North Line Fabrication, before the cancer. On his desk, a photo from Lila's high school graduation, both of us flanking her, proud parents, believing in futures that would never arrive. The phone rang. Evan. "They made one more attempt," he said. "Tried to use the mineral rights as collateral for a hard money loan, a company called Apex Bridge Lending. And Apex ran title search, found our filing, declined. But here's the interesting part. Bryce told them it was for a medical emergency. Said you were in the hospital, needed immediate treatment not covered by insurance. He said I was sick. Dying, actually. Showed them a forged medical document with your name on it. I laughed. Actually laughed. So now I'm dying, and they're my devoted children trying to save me. The document fraud alone is a felony. We have their loan application, the forged medical records, all of it. Add it to the file. At 10:30 p, I texted Lila, looking forward to tomorrow. Bring the chest, we should do this properly, with everything present. She replied immediately, of course. See you at 3. Love you. Love. She could still type it so easily. I poured Patrick's whiskey, sat in his chair, talked to his ghost. Tomorrow she signs her confession. I told the empty room. Every document a nail in her legal coffin. Then Detective Halpin walks in with handcuffs. The house creaked, settling for the night. Somewhere out there, Lila and Bryce were probably strategizing, planning their approach, practicing their smiles, counting money that had already turned to evidence. The chest that had carried hope across 4 generations of O'Rourke women would tomorrow become a prison. Patrick would have called it poetic justice. I called it Thursday. Thursday arrived grey and cold, October showing its teeth. I dressed carefully navy suit, pearl earrings Patrick gave me for our 20th anniversary. Watch set 3 minutes fast like always. Professional. Composed. A mother about to destroy her daughter with paperwork. At 2:30 p, I arrived at Prairie Crest Bank. Jennifer Huang met me at the door. They're here, she said quietly. Arrived 15 minutes early. They're anxious. Through the glass wall of the conference room, I could see them. Lila in her best dress, the black one she wore to impress. Bryce in a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, checking his phone every 30 seconds. The chest sat on the table between them like a coffin at a wake. Is Detective Halpin ready? I asked. Waiting in the manager's office. Mr. Cole is here too, in the next room with the documents. I took a breath. 40 years of investigating fraud, and it came down to this, catching my own daughter in a trap she'd walked into willingly. Let's go. The conference room smelled like leather and lemon polish. 3 cameras blinked red from their corners. Sarah Hendricks, the notary, sat at the head of the table, seal and stamp ready. Mom. Lila stood, came for a hug. She smelled like that same desperate perfume. Thank you so much for doing this. We know it's a hassle. No hassle at all, I said, sitting across from them. Important things deserve proper attention. Evan entered, carrying 2 folders, Set A and Set B. He placed them on the table with practiced precision. Mrs. O'Rourke, Mrs. Ward, Mr. Ward. He nodded to each. Shall we begin? Actually, Bryce interrupted, we were hoping to keep this simple. Just a straightforward transfer of the gift. Nothing complicated. $15 million is never uncomplicated, Evan said mildly. But don't worry. Everything here is standard. Mrs. O'Rourke, you mentioned you wanted to ensure your daughter receives these family assets. Yes, I said, looking directly at Lila. I want to make sure everything is properly documented. No confusion about ownership. Perfect. Evan opened Set B, though they couldn't see the label. Let's start with the inventory confirmation. He slid a paper across to Lila. This lists all assets contained in the chest. Please initial each item to confirm you've received them. Lila's eyes ran down the list. I watched her pupils dilate at each line: pink diamonds, bearer bonds, cryptocurrency wallet, mineral rights. She initialed quickly, eagerly. Excellent. Now, this document confirms the transfer date. He slid another page across. You're acknowledging you took possession of the chest on October 13th? Yes, Lila said, signing. And this one confirms you've had exclusive control since then? Yes. Another signature. Bryce was getting impatient. How many documents are there? Just a few more. Standard chain of custody. Mrs. Ward. This states you opened and accessed the contents on October 14th at 5:28 Merm. Lila's hand hesitated. How did you... The chest has an NFC chip that logs access. Standard security feature for high-value items. Is the time incorrect? She looked at Bryce, who nodded slightly. No, that's correct. She signed. This one's important. Evan continued, his voice never changing tone. This acknowledges that you understood the conditional nature of the gift when you took possession. Conditional, Bryce said sharply. All gifts of this value have conditions. Tax purposes, mainly. The condition here was that both parties appear at this bank to finalize the transfer, which you're doing now. So it's just a formality. Lila signed without reading further. Page after page, signature after signature, each one an admission, each one a confession. Now, Evan said, pulling out a new document. This confirms you haven't attempted to sell, transfer, or encumber any of the assets prior to this meeting. Lila's hand froze above the paper. Is there a problem? I asked innocently. No, she said quickly. No problem. She signed. Almost done. Evan said. This document waives any claim of good faith possession should any irregularities be discovered in the transfer process. What irregularities? Bryce demanded. Standard language. Protects both parties. Unless you've done something irregular. They exchanged glances. Lila signed. And finally, Evan placed the last document. This acknowledges that any attempted conversion of assets prior to completed transfer constitutes breach of conditional gift terms and authorizes immediate reversion to the trust. What does that mean? Lila asked. It means, I said quietly, that if you tried to sell my mother's diamonds before we finished the paperwork here, they revert back to me. But we didn't. Then you have nothing to worry about. She looked at the paper, then at me. For a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not guilt, not shame. Calculation. She was weighing the odds. She signed. Wonderful, Evan said, gathering the papers. Now, Mrs. O'Rourke, I believe you wanted to check the chest's contents before finalizing. Yes. I stood, walked to the chest, ran my hands over the cedar, feeling the grain Patrick had admired. Then I opened it, knowing what I'd find. The false bottom had been pried open, poorly concealed after. The space beneath was empty, except for the USB drive I'd placed there, the one containing all the security footage, all the digital logs, all the evidence. Where are the diamonds? I asked. Silence. The bonds. The wallet information, the mineral rights deed. Lila's face had gone pale. We have them safe. Safe where? At home. We were worried about bringing them here, for security. I picked up the USB drive, handed it to Evan. Please play this for everyone. On his laptop, the security footage began. Lila and Bryce in their garage, opening the chest. The celebration. The phone calls to buyers. The attempts at Hills and Hart, Colorado Gems, the pawn shop. Even the forged medical documents claiming I was dying. You recorded us, Lila whispered. You recorded yourselves. Every smart home security system uploads to the cloud. The door opened. Detective Halpin entered, followed by another officer. Lila Ward, Bryce Ward, you're under arrest for attempted grand larceny, fraud, forgery, and violation of the Colorado Organized Crime Act. Mom, Lila said, standing as the handcuffs appeared. Mom, please. I'm your daughter. No, I said, my voice steady as granite. My daughter would never have stolen from me. My daughter would never have forged documents claiming I was dying. My daughter would never have tried to pawn her great-grandmother's diamonds for quick cash. The handcuffs clicked shut. The chest was a test, I continued, and you failed it completely. The handcuffs caught the light from the banker's lamps, throwing silver reflections across the mahogany table. Lila's face had gone from pale to grey, her carefully applied makeup now standing out like paint on a corpse. You set us up, Bryce snarled, struggling against the officer's grip. This is entrapment. Entrapment requires inducement to commit a crime you wouldn't otherwise commit, Evan Cole said calmly, organizing his papers. Mrs. O'Rourke gave a conditional gift. You chose to violate those conditions. Repeatedly. Detective Halpin pulled out a folder, thick with documentation. Mr. Ward, we have records of you attempting to use mineral rights you don't own as collateral for a $200,000 loan. You told Apex Bridge Lending that Mrs. O'Rourke was dying of pancreatic cancer. That was a misunderstanding. You forged medical documents from Ruston Regional Hospital. We have the originals you based them on, stolen from their database during a visit last month. Their IT security captured your login attempt. Jennifer Huang stepped forward with bank documents. We also have the escrow records. The trust clearly states all assets remain under Blue Juniper Trust control until both signatures were properly witnessed here. Every attempt to sell or transfer before that moment constitutes fraud. Mom. Lila's voice cracked, the polished veneer finally breaking. How could you do this to me? How could I stood, walked to face her directly. You stole from me the moment I turned my back. You took that chest at 4:53 Monday morning, thinking I was asleep. You opened the false bottom at 5:28, catalogued my assets for 23 minutes, then started trying to sell them before the sun was fully up. You said it was mine. I said it would be yours. Conditionally. The distinction matters. Evan pulled up another document on his laptop. Mrs. Ward, are you aware that the seed phrase you attempted to use connected to a smart contract wallet? Every login attempt was logged. You tried 17 times to transfer the full balance, each attempt creating a permanent blockchain record. The diamonds, Detective Halpin added, were reported to every dealer in 3 states. We have 7 attempted sales on record, each one a separate felony count. Sarah Hendricks, the notary, who had been silent until now, spoke up. I've witnessed a lot of document signings, never seen someone sign their own arrest warrant with such enthusiasm. This won't hold up in court, Bryce said desperately. We'll fight this. With what money? I asked. Your last investor pulled out Tuesday when you couldn't provide proof of assets for your revolutionary supply chain startup. The same startup that's never had a single customer. By the way, I had Evan check. Lila was crying now, mascara running in black streams. I saved you. 3 years ago. When you fell, I saved you. Yes, I said quietly. You did. And for 3 days, you were my daughter again. Then Bryce came back from Vegas, broke from gambling, and you went right back to seeing me as a bank account with a pulse. That's not... October 2022, you asked for $30,000 for an investment opportunity. November 2022, $20,000 for medical expenses that turned out to be a vacation to Cabo. January 2023, $45,000 for Bryce's bridge loan that bridged nothing but his cocaine debt. Each date landed like a slap. Lila flinched at everyone. I have every receipt. I continued. Every wire transfer. Every lie you told to get them. 40 years as a forensic accountant means I document everything. Delilah. Everything. We're family, she whispered. Patrick was family. He died believing you loved him for more than his life insurance. I won't make the same mistake. Evan cleared his throat. There's one more matter. The assets themselves. He pulled out a banker's box, set it on the table. Inside, carefully wrapped in evidence bags, were the pink diamonds, the bearer bonds, the mineral rights deed. These were recovered from a storage unit Mr. Ward rented Tuesday under a false name. Unfortunately for him, he used a credit card linked to his business account. The same business account that shows transfers from Mrs. O'Rourke totaling $370,000 over the past 2 years. All of which, Detective Halpin added, he'll need to account for in bankruptcy court since Northline Fabrication LLC filed Chapter 7 this morning. That was news to me. I looked at Evan, who permitted himself a small smile. Did you think I wouldn't check everything? He asked Bryce. Your company never existed except on paper. Every investor meeting was a gambling trip. Every bridge loan was a debt payment. You've been running a con for 3 years, and your wife was your Mark's mother. Bryce's phone rang. He looked at the screen, and his remaining color drained. That'll be the Colorado Gaming Commission, Detective Halpin said. They have some questions about markers you signed at 3 casinos using Mrs. O'Rourke's assets as collateral. Assets you never owned. Take them, I told the detective. As they were led out, Lila turned back one last time. What about the chest? I walked to it, ran my hand along the carved top one more time. 4 generations of O'Rourke women. It deserved better than this. Evidence, I said. Like everything else you touched. The door closed behind them. The conference room fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the whisper of Evan organizing papers. Jennifer Huang touched my shoulder gently. Are you all right? I will be. Sarah Hendricks was packing up her notary seal. In 30 years? I've never seen anything like that. You planned every detail. 40 years of investigating how people steal taught me how to catch a thief, even when the thief is my daughter. Especially then. The conference room emptied slowly. Jennifer Huang gathered the camera's memory cards, each one containing angles of my daughter signing away her freedom. Evan Cole packed his documents 23 pages of confessions disguised as contracts. The chest sat abandoned on the table, its cedar wood still gleaming, still beautiful, still betrayed. The formal charges will be filed by 5 p.m., Detective Halpin had said before leaving. With the evidence you've provided, the DA expects they'll both plead out. 5 to 7 years, probably. Less with good behavior. 5 to 7 years. Lila would be 40 when she got out. 40. Broke. And carrying a felony record like a scarlet letter. I stood alone in Prairie Crest Bank's conference room, the place where I'd banked with Patrick for 25 years, where we'd signed our first mortgage, celebrated paying it off, signed his business loans, and later processed his death certificates. Now it would be the place where I signed away my daughter. Evan returned, carrying one final document. The asset recovery forms. Everything in the chest returns to the Blue Juniper Trust, under your sole control. $15 million. Every penny Patrick had worked for, every investment I'd shepherded, every piece of our life together that I'd converted into portable wealth over 10 careful years. All of it safe. All of it mine. All of it worthless now. What will you do with it? Evan asked. Patrick wanted it to go to someone who understood its value beyond the numbers. Lila only saw numbers. I signed the recovery forms, my signature steady and precise. 40 years of signing documents, audit reports, fraud findings, evidence logs. This one felt different. This one felt final. There's a scholarship fund at the Colorado School of Mines, I said. For students from working families, like Patrick was, like we were, before the money. They'll use it better than Lila would have. All of it. Every penny. Let something good come from this. I walked to the chest, opened it one last time. The false bottom hung open, exposed, its secret spilled, like trust, once broken. It could never truly be repaired. Mrs. O'Rourke. Jennifer Huang reappeared. There's someone here to see you. Behind her stood a young woman, maybe 25, with tired eyes and a baby on her hip. You don't know me, she said quickly. I'm Melissa Ward, Bryce's first wife. I hadn't known there was a first wife. He did the same thing to my family, she continued, shifting the baby's weight. Convinced my parents to mortgage their house for his sure thing investment. They lost everything. When I saw on the news that he'd been arrested for fraud, she trailed off, then straightened her shoulders. I wanted to thank you for stopping him, for being strong enough to stop him, even though it meant losing your daughter. I lost her long ago, I said. No, Melissa said firmly. She lost herself. You just refused to follow her down. After she left, I stood in the bank's lobby, watching the afternoon sun slant through the windows. Outside, Ruston continued its daily rhythm, people shopping, working, living their lives unaware that a family had just destroyed itself over money that was never really the point. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I knew immediately it was from Lila, probably her one phone call. I'll never forgive you. I deleted it without responding. Forgiveness, like trust, wasn't mine to grant anymore. Evan walked me to my car, carrying the empty chest. Where do you want this goodwill? I said. Let it find a family that deserves it. Maggie, he said, using my first name for the first time in 3 years of legal service. You did the right thing. Did I? I planned for months to trap my own daughter. I documented her every lie, recorded her every crime, built a case that would send her to prison. What kind of mother does that? The kind who knows the difference between justice and enabling. Patrick would be proud. Patrick. He'd seen this coming from his hospital bed, watching Lila calculate morphine dosages against insurance payouts. Make it expensive. Mags. He'd said during his last coherent day. Make the lesson so expensive she can never afford to forget it. I drove home to my empty house, past Northline Fabrications' abandoned lot, where rare earth minerals waited beneath cracked asphalt. Past Hills and Hart Gemological, where Mr. Hills had refused to buy stolen diamonds. Past the First Lutheran Church, where we'd buried Patrick, while Lila texted investors from the pew. The doorbell camera recorded my arrival at 4:17 p.m. The same camera that had caught my daughter stealing from me at dawn on a Monday. Evidence of coming, evidence of going, evidence of everything except the love that should have been inside. I poured Patrick's Middleton whiskey, sat in his chair, and laughed. Not a bitter laugh, not a sad laugh, but the laugh of someone who'd finally played their last card in a game they'd never wanted to join. The chest was gone, the diamonds secured, the bonds safe, the mineral rights protected, the fortune intact. And I was alone with $15 million and the echo of my daughter screaming that I'd betrayed her by refusing to be robbed. Tien ko the mua juok rat niu thu, I said to Patrick's photo, using the Vietnamese phrase I'd learned from a client years ago. Money can buy many things. Tru quien so hu king woi gyu no kong hio gio kien. Accept ownership when the holder doesn't understand the conditions. The last laugh wasn't sweet. It wasn't victorious. It was just last. The trap had worked perfectly. The thief had been caught. Justice had been served. And Margaret O'Rourke, 62 years old, forensic accountant, widow, and now childless mother, had won everything. Everything except what mattered. But sometimes, that's what the last laugh costs. Sometimes, that's the price of being right. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below, and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Maggie's position? Your perspectives make these stories richer for everyone.